To give you an overview of what we will be touching on over the next 20 minutes or so, first, we will look at the Singapore property market prior to COVID-19. What happened when the pandemic surfaced and what is happening now as we speak. Next, we will be doing a comparison between the current crisis and the past ones that impacted the Singapore property market. And lastly, we will look at where Singapore property market stands and how we will emerge from this storm. Right, so let's start by taking a look at the Singapore property market before COVID-19. Looking at the new private residential sales, we saw an exuberant 2019 that continued into 2020 Q1 with more than 10,000 new home sales in the period between May 2019 to 2020. Now, in fact, the transactions were going strong even in February and March 2020 after the first case of coronavirus infection in Singapore. So with low unemployment rate and low interest rate right now, the property market watchers are actually expecting 2020 to be a very bullish year. Now, unfortunately, with the rising number of infections in Singapore and a number of untraced contacts, fear starts to set in. Now, government measures such as travel restrictions, safe distancing, as well as subsequently the circuit breaker were actually put in place, and these measures are to keep Singaporeans safe. But at the same time, they also dampen our property sales. So in Q1, we saw that the resale and sub-sale transactions dropped by 12.9%. New home sales moved 2,149 units in Q1, but it's down from Q4 2019. And if compared to March last year, it actually went up by 16.9%. Property prices dropped marginally by 1% in Q1. And the core central region appeared to be leading the price correction. And this is in line with a trend that we actually observed over past crises. The property market has remained resilient with lower than expected impact on the property prices. And I think this can probably be attributed to the sound fundamentals and the quiet confidence across the general population on how the Singapore government is actually managing the COVID situation. So from 7th April to date, we have seen more than 260 new private homes being sold during the circuit breaker itself. We spoke to some of the buyers and several believe that right now we are actually approaching a crisis, and now is a good opportunity to pick up some attractively priced properties. And we did an analysis of people who bought new properties during the last financial crisis, and we found that some have actually made some of the highest profits when compared to properties bought in other periods. Now, prices for properties were initially expected to correct by as much as 8% this year, but the correction for Q1 was marginal. So what makes this crisis different from the previous ones? Right, the stock market is one of the indicators of the property market, and we are clearly in the bear market now. In a bear market, it is important to identify what kind of bear market we are in, as the different kinds of market tend to produce very different kind of recessions. So the cyclical bear markets as associated with the normal fluctuation of the business cycle. So if the economy gets too hot, rates will be raised to keep the prices in line, resulting in a depressed outlook for economic growth and an associated sell-off. So this type of bear markets have a deep decline and last a longer time for average of about 26 months. Structural bear markets are caused by reversing a major bubble or imbalance in the economy. So the 2008 financial crisis was such a bear market. Individuals and businesses were overextended on debt, and the banks are starting to lend to worse and worse candidates. So this type of bear markets tend to see a much deeper sell-offs as they are correcting a fundamental flaw in the markets, and they tend to last much longer as well, on average about 42 months. The reason for this increased debt and time to recover is that even after consumers start to feel more confident and more comfortable to spend more money, and businesses want to invest, the banks are actually too impaired to lend, resulting in stagnation in the market. So event-driven bear, on the other hand, are caused by market attempting to price in the impact of this specific event. The current market, I would say, is more of an event-driven one, as the downturn is caused by the coronavirus and the measures that the government put in place. So as compared to past crises, which are either the cyclical or the structural bear, this downturn, we expect to see shallower sell-offs and hence a faster rebound as well. Now, the second factor that caused this crisis to be different is probably the digital leap itself. Now, not only has digital tools been crucial in helping us to keep in close contact with our loved ones, the viral outbreak also accelerated the pace of digital connectivity, allowing businesses and consumers to shift our physical activities to digital platforms. So this availability of online platforms to market properties, allow virtual viewings, fulfill all the paperwork required, as well as monetary transactions, all this enabled the property market to continue to function despite the circuit breaker in place. As mentioned previously, more than 260 new homes have been sold during the circuit breaker itself. Many of these buyers have not visited the sales gallery prior to the purchase. All this were made possible with the virtual tours of the show flats provided by our property developers and the virtual presentations by agents ourselves. So the advancement in all these online tools are quite amazing, and they are a great help to both the buyers and agents. So for example, it also allowed the buyers to have a better sense of the space. We can even take measurements of the space itself within the virtual tours. So sales documents we have seen in past transactions can also be completed through online platforms such as show suites. The whole process has proven to be very seamless. And in fact, some of our agents even say that, oh, well, we can sit at home and enjoy Netflix while the sale is in process. Next, it's the many rounds of cooling measures that were introduced. I know that perhaps many buyers were rather, upset with the rounds of cooling measures. However, I think we really have to thank the government for putting all these cooling measures in place over the past decade, because these measures have been effective in preventing speculative purchases, moderating the property price increase, and keeping the demand in checks, thus preventing the individual borrowers from over-leveraging as well. Now, the TDSR capped the total debt repayments to below 60% of the borrower's income. And this has helped to limit the amount of loan the borrower is able to get. So this has ensured that property buyers are purchasing properties within their means. And if there is any slight changes in their income, they will still be able to fulfill their loan repayment obligations. Now, all these cooling measures have prevented a bubble that could have been detrimental to our property market amidst this pandemic. Now, if you look at what's happening right now as compared to past financial crisis, example during the 2008 financial crisis, the climate is a bit different. Back then, the interest rate was very high. And in fact, it caused a lot of hardship to some of the homeowners because of the high mortgage loan repayments. However, with the current low interest rates, we don't foresee the same magnitude of challenges in the loan repayment. And this means lesser chances of premature disposal of properties, or what we call the fire sale, as long as unemployment remains in check. So in your opinion, do you think that Singapore will be able to survive this storm and emerge stronger? Now let's take a look at some of the factors that will affect the recovery process of the Singapore property market. Looking at the Singapore property market right now, many buyers will be asking, what kind of recovery do we foresee once the circuit breaker is lifted? Now, let's look at the crisis that Singapore has experienced in the past 20 years. In 2001, we had 9/11, and then shortly after SARS. We took longer to recover from these two events because one event happened after another. So within a short period of time, resulting in L-shaped recovery. Okay, so this is the one. Now, next, during the global financial crisis in 2008, or what we call the Lehman Brothers, due to the stimulus that the government rolled out, we see more of a V-shaped recovery. So another reason for such recovery is that certain countries move extremely fast, and this helped to boost the growth. So in the case of Singapore, we saw a lot of buyers from China during that time. And China was growing very fast, and Singapore was also experiencing a growth in the economy, thus resulting in this fast recovery. So the last type of recovery which we can look at is the U-shaped recovery. Okay, this can be seen after the implementation of TDSR. It took a while for the market to recover, as the downturn happened not because of any unforeseen circumstances, but rather buyers were waiting patiently, hoping that the cooling measures will be removed. However, after a while, the market picked up when the buyers came to terms with the measures and felt that it is the right time to re-enter the property market. So as to what type of recovery we can hope to see in Singapore, we will revisit this question at the end of this section. So when COVID-19 reached Singapore, the relevant authorities were very quick in responding to the situation, both medically as well as to the economy. So the government pushed out the solidarity package decisively and introduced measures to help both the businesses as well as the individuals. Now, relating to the property market itself, loan repayments were granted the option of deferment. There were also a slew of temporary relief measures being introduced, and these responses were unprecedented and decisive and helped to cushion the effects of the pandemics on the property market. Developers are generally holding firm on their asking prices at this very early stage. They are mostly well capitalized and have sufficient runway to observe the market situation before the 5-year time frame to sell off their inventory is up. So it can also be seen that individual sellers themselves are also not in a rush to dispose of their properties. So I can say perhaps investors looking for fire sales will be disappointed because analysts say that prices are unlikely to crash the way they did in the recession after the global financial crisis in 2009. But that said, all this is provided the unemployment remains stable. As we all know, foreigners account for a substantial percentage of buyers for properties in Singapore. Travel bans are now getting in the way of affluent foreign buyers, particularly the Chinese buyers who can't come to Singapore to view and finalize their property purchase. And Chinese buyers are the real driving force in this segment. For instance, in September last year, they were largely responsible for driving luxury home prices to an 11-year high. Now, once the travel restrictions are lifted, the foreigners will be back. Singapore has become the beacon of hope in this tragic global pandemic. High net worth individuals from around the world will look to invest here when the situation improves. Now, we are still one of the top cities that foreigners will want to relocate with their families. Now, moreover, we have this zero inheritance tax in Singapore. So this is another key reason that foreigners would want to own property here for them to pass on to their children in the future. Now, Singapore has long been Asia's leading financial hubs and ranked 4th globally according to 2019 statistics. It has also ranked as world's best business environment for nearly a decade. Now, its competitive workforce and the low corruption, as well as our developed infrastructure, also makes the country appealing to investors. And of course, our government policies that are in place, the stable political as well as social environment makes Singapore the haven for investors. Now, will Singapore rebound fast? I think the long-term effects will remain uncertain. However, we note that Singapore property market always recover after an economic downturn. And prices may trend lower, but they are unlikely to plummet as they had during the global financial crisis. Housing demand might be postponed, but I don't think it's going to be totally destroyed by COVID-19. And there could be pent-up demand for property during this period. As most home seekers sit and wait until the COVID-19 situation blows over, I think it's very likely that we will see transaction volumes pick up where we left off. So after the CB is lifted, we may see a surge in transaction volumes. Yeah, I think that's quite possible. How fast the recovery will be depends on factors such as how soon the vaccine itself will be made available. I think recently we have seen some good news in the newspaper articles about the vaccine being available. So as long as that remains, I think this will actually help to boost up our recovery as well. So as long as we don't have another black swan event happening, I think we can hope for a U-shape or even a V-shape recovery in this sense. Now, before I conclude today's presentation, I'd like to share with you some advice from one of the most successful investors. It says, don't buy stocks, buy companies. Most people are not investing, but rather they are speculating, taking uncalculated risk based on hearsay and herd mentality. They did not study the business plans and fundamentals of the companies before putting their money in. So if you look at this from property investment perspective, you can interpret it as don't buy properties, buy into the prospect of the country instead. Now, second point, do not take more risk than your ability. Invest within your means. I think this is a very, very sound advice that we should always remember. The more complex the investment, the faster you should run. Now, I think it is common sense that no seller is a Santa Claus who will want to give out freely. So if they have to throw in many discounts, freebies, rebates, etc. to entice you to buy, you should probably think twice about it. Now, lastly, Warren Buffett advocates that long-term investing and diversification of your portfolio is something that you should consider. Do not hastily buy into something hoping for a quick buck. If you think you can't hold it for 10 years, don't buy into it thinking that you are able to make a quick buck within the next 10 minutes. Now look at your own job and do a little bit of personal forecasting and be objective about it. If you think that your job will likely be severely disrupted by the pandemic, then it is probably better to be less aggressive in your investment plans and maintain some liquidity and cash flow. On the other hand, if your industry is still very relevant and essential and unlikely to be disrupted, then this may be a good time for you to look out for some good buys. Right, to conclude, I think Singapore will remain as one of the top investment destinations for the foreseeable future, even with this pandemic, as our fundamentals have remained strong. The Singapore property market was going strong, in fact, even going into Q1 2020 as well. While the prices may trend slightly lower in the immediate aftermath of the COVID-19 and after the circuit breaker, I think there is still demand and the Singapore property market remains resilient. We also see an abundance of silver linings in this crisis. But we are also cautiously optimistic that the recovery will be quicker. The government has introduced many rounds of solidarity packages, and it has shown that it will continue to help businesses as well as citizens weather this storm. So the accelerated pace of embracing technology has also helped to cushion the impact of the crisis on our Singapore property market. So like I've mentioned right at the start of this presentation, there is no one-size-fits-all advice for everyone. However, I hope that after sharing all this market overview and data available with you, you will have some takeaway from today's session that will aid you in your decision-making. So encourage you to probably take some time to sit down with your trusted real estate agent to discuss your needs and personal goals. So with this, I shall hand over to the next speaker, Gerald Goh, who will share with you his analysis of the potential of the core central region. Gerald, to you now.
Thank you, Angie, for that very excellent presentation. I think we have heard some of the points before, but the way you summarized it was really very clear and concise, and I think all of our listeners were able to capture it better and really understand what are the key factors they need to think of and consider before making a purchase. While we usher in Gerald, whom I think is setting up his slides, just a quick question. You mentioned digital leap, so I'm just wondering, in your personal capacity, are you finding more resistance to meeting you online, or are your buyers quite receptive to actually doing online meetup with you?
I think let's not say the buyers themselves. Even for us agents, during the initial period, for us to embrace technology and bring everything to the digital platform has proven to be a bit challenging and scary. But I think during this, as the circuit breaker progress, we all start to get used to how things work. And in fact, more and more buyers are also getting used to the idea of online meeting.
Great. Yeah, I agree. I think all of us had that same experience, right? Initially, we didn't know how to react, but I think now it's almost like the norm now. Right? We're doing this
Yes.
almost every single day. So I believe more clients will be more inclined to doing virtual tours and doing online visits.
Yeah.
Great.
I think actually this is a good learning ground for all of us agents. Yeah, from moving forward, I think all this technology is really going to help us, in fact, even to reach out to foreign buyers as well.
Yep, agree. Hi, Gerald. Are you ready to go now?
Yes, hi, sorry. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming in. Hey, my name is Gerald. Okay, today I'll be touching on okay, just give me a second.
Gerald, don't forget to share your screen.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming to our consumer seminar today. All right, my name is Gerald. Today I'll be touching on the core central region. On is there a potential in this region? Why the core central region? Is because primarily when NG earlier shared about things like foreigners coming in and investing in the country, actually the only piece of cake they can have is the non-residential private property. And this is where the biggest cluster of the affluent will be in the core central region. All right, and there will be competition between the affluent foreigners at the same time with the aspiration demand of the local people. So we want to look at this area today to see if there's any potential. And on my second topic, I will look at some of the factors. What are the factors you need to consider when making your investment? All right. So just a broad overview. What we see here is the core central region, the map. All right. The core central region is in the yellow color box. You can see here. All right, which is a mix up of District 9, which is the Orchard cluster. Okay, and District 10, which is the Bukit Timah to Holland cluster, and District 11, all right, Novena Newton. Also part of 1, 2, 6, and 7 in this downtown core, and also District 4, Sentosa. Okay, so, sorry. So let me start. So what I did was I plotted a chart between these three regions to take a look how did they perform actually during the past 4 years. Okay, from what you can see here on the gray line, what we see is the OCR from 2015 all the way to 194Q. You could see that the OCR actually has a much sharper growth. There's about 11.2%, and then followed by the RCR, which is the blue line, which is at 9.6%, and the CCR actually has a very muted growth over the years at 3.1%. So why is this so? How I feel is that there are two contributing factors to this. Number one, it will be the decentralization plans that the government have, meaning moving offices to where the locals are staying and setting up office there. Some of the good examples would be like Changi Business Park, Tampines, you have Park Place, Paya quarters, you have Jurong, right, the second CBD area. This is one of the contributing factors. When the government makes some of these plans and announce it, all right, the market get very excited and people are very bullish about it, and people will want to enter to where the government wants to set up offices, all right, and all their plans. And second factor to me during this period, right, is actually the ABSD, the additional buyer's stamp duty that was put in place to actually and put in a lid over the foreigners coming into the country. That's why with the 20% foreign ABSD today, right, the foreigners are kept out of the reach of some of these properties. But then again, the interest is still very high. Okay, there's no doubt about it in coming to the CCR region. This is one example of RCR, when the market is feeling bullish. All right, Park Place Residence, which was launched in 2017, and they have a two-phase launch between 2017 and 2018. You could see that the price actually trends at the average of close to 2001 and the high of 2003. Okay, this project has raised some eyebrows during then, and I want you to help me to remember this number right here. Okay, 2001 to 2003, which I'll come back and revisit later on. Okay, next, I plotted a graph on the trend of CCR versus RCR and District 9 new sale properties. Okay, why do I do that? Because earlier NG mentioned about the market trending upwards, and what is driving is the Chinese, right? The economy, the Chinese economy is opening up and people are coming in to buy and pushing it up. With this graph, let me guide you through. The RCR is the orange graph, which follows all the way through to the 2019. Today is in the medium range of close to 2000 PSF. This is the city fringe price, okay? And then the core central region, which is the blue line, it trends as according to the market. And you could see that the RCR, the growth in during the 2009 to 2013 period is steeper than the RCR and OCR region. All right, so at its trend upwards today is in the region of 3,000. However, you could see that distinctively when I plot the 2019 graph, you could see that the 2019 graph is the District 9 graph. You could see that the District 9 graph is the one that is pushing the whole central region up. That's why there is a steeper curve. So there is a lot of demand for District 9. Okay, so for myself, I do see there's opportunity in this because today we have to agree that we are in a crisis. And today the District 9 in the average, the prices, they are trending about 2007, which we could see that the gap between the RCR and the CCR is closing in. Okay, so so you ask me, okay, Gerald, what's going forward? We know that we are in a crisis today, all right? But what could be in the future? Okay, would it follow this trend? All right, if I say yes, you probably will not believe me. But these are things that we don't know, okay? But let me share with you the things that I know which will happen, okay? Moving forward, these are the factors to consider which we know that it will happen, okay? It's only a matter of when. One, like what Angie said, there's a travel restriction going on now, okay? With the COVID-19, the travel restriction in place, a lot of buyers who are interested to invest in Singapore, all right, is locked out, okay? And some of them, they want to physically feel and see and touch the place before they make their investment. But to me personally, this point is starting to get less relevant because like what was mentioned, the digital leap, right? Where people are getting more acceptable to viewing properties in the digital form and making their investment there, which over the past month, we already witnessed a lot of transactions, and some of them are also, as well, foreigners who made the decision digitally and virtually. Okay, second again to consider is the vaccines. We can see that we are racing against time to come out with the vaccine. All right, so once we believe that once everything is, we found the vaccine, everything is going well, the positive vibes comes in, this is when the market picks up. And many buyers, all right, that's when they want to cash in, they want to start to enter the market. And sometimes you realize that it could be too late, okay? Third is something that is actually very recent, but we forgot about it. It's just the Hong Kong protest. Personally, if I feel that the number one choice for Chinese buyers is actually Hong Kong. And not too recently, with the ongoing protest, it actually has a very deep scar in the Chinese people. And where else could they go during this point of time? Where else can they bring their family at this point of time? And also together with the COVID-19 situation where there's a lot of anti-Asian vibes around the other countries, isn't Singapore one of the best location for them to come in again? So what I'll know is that these are the factors to consider moving forward. When, we don't know, but definitely the market will pick up if all these are in place, are back to normal, okay? So some of the, like to share with you during this period, there are some transactions that raised some eyeballs during this COVID-19, okay? One in District 9 will be Boulevard 88. Okay, Boulevard 88, it trends, what happened is that you can see here from 27th in the March where the COVID-19, all right, it hit the shores of Singapore, already hit. And you could see distinctively that there are 3 transactions that's over 10 million, in 10 million range, and 3,000 per square foot. Okay, this is when it hit our shores. And next, this news came out 2 weeks ago, which is also very, something that, wow, Zhao Wei, right? She and her husband, they are PR here, and they actually purchased a 28 million penthouse in Ardmore Park, all right, District 10, which is very near to Orchard as well. But these are sales done during the circuit breaker, okay? This you don't know. But actually, these are not really the highest transaction. Okay, let me take you back a little bit of a history where you see that actually in Orchard Road, right? This project Mark at Patterson by SC Global, right? In 2019 October, okay, that's just about 7-8 months ago, 4 units were transacted in the range of 23 to 30 million range. And taking it back, as you remember earlier when I showed the graph, 2011 was when the market picks up, right? Some of the buyers, they actually entered the market, and that was when things were transacting in a close to 6,000 PSF range. That's in District 9, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, but of course, today my recommendation to you, right, is not going to be something at this price range. Okay, I'm not going to scare you off, but we want to make a recommendation based on what is available here. All right, I'm going to make a recommendation on a new launch in District 9. All right, today, but by knowing how much you're going to pay for, first we need to look at the land price that they have paid. With the land price, you're able to put in the labor costs and the construction costs, and then a bit of their profit. And that's how they can get a good gauge of what is the selling price. All right, that's how we do a bit of analysis before we advise our clients on whether this is a good proposition or not. Okay, so let's look at some of the CCR land prices that was transacted in the 2017 and 2018. That was a time when we all know that Singapore went through the en bloc fever. Okay, you could see that the median range ranges from 1192 all the way to 2910. Okay, today I'm going to introduce you this project called Kopar and Newton. It was transacted at 1192 PSF PPR. What is the difference between Kopar and Newton and the rest of the land prices you see here? Is that Kopar and Newton the land was actually purchased in January. Okay, there's a difference because when the en bloc fever came in, all right, all developers were feeling really bullish and they were taking up land because developers, their business is about building and selling and building and selling. So they were acquiring lands on and on from 2001, starting from 2016 all the way to 2018. And that's when the cooling measures came in on the July of 2018, when the government decides to raise another 5% across the board on EBSD. And then moving forward, they also came up with another cooling measure for developers to make sure that the minimum size of the units cannot be of certain square footage. That means less profit for the developers. With that in place, it literally cooled down the whole market of en bloc. That means that at that point, I could say that the en bloc fever is done. Okay, there's no more fever already. Okay, everyone is very much recovered. But that was when the developers, the government came out with a land in District 9, Kopar and Newton, with a good land size of over a football field size. All right, so that's when all the developers were feeling like, okay, let's not because of all these things, let's be more careful. And Chip Eng Seng actually managed to beat the price at 1192 PSF PPR. I do not have time to show you more slides, but then if you would compare with some of the city fringe prices, land prices, with this price, they actually got it even cheaper than them. Okay, so as we know, during this period, the circuit breaker, Kopar and Newton, we sold 20 units virtually. Okay, so why are people going into this project? It's one of the best sellers during this time. Okay, with the graph here, the pie chart actually shows that we already sold virtually a new launch. We sold virtually about over 300. Okay, but Kopar and Newton is one of the best performing in the core central region. Why is it that people are considering Kopar and Newton? And what are the factors when people are considered when they invest? Okay, let me share with you. This thing called, I think the famous phrase going location, location, location. So what is the three factors that we need to consider before we make a purchase? And with that, I would want to use Kopar and Newton as a guide why people will consider this property. First, let me share with you, Kopar and Newton is in District 9. Again, first factor we want to look at is the amenities. What are the things that are around them for residents to give them convenience? All right. First, Kopar and Newton is located 300 meters away from the Newton MRT. Okay, Newton MRT is just not ordinary MRT. It is an interchange. All right, it cuts from the north-south line from the north to the south, and the downtown line which cuts from the east to the west. More than that, Kopar and Newton is also within the interchanges, all right? Stevens MRT, it will host the future Thomson East Coast line. Botanic MRT is the Circle line, and Little India is the purple line, all right? North-south line, northeast line, okay? Next, Kopar and Newton has amenities all around. Across the Newton Food Center, you'll get your local delicacies, your char kway teow, your stingray, all right? And then you're just a few minutes walk to United Square Shopping Mall. That's where you will get your groceries, and you're connected to Novena MRT and Novena Health City, okay? And one stop away, you're across to the famous Orchard Shopping Belt. Kopar and Newton is also in the middle of 3 schools, not just 3 schools, it's 3 reputable boys' schools, all right? And more than that, more than just boys' school, Kopar and Newton is actually located in the stretch of all the renowned schools, most renowned schools in Singapore. Having a kid here, having a family here would mean a lot of convenience for your family and yourself, right? More convenience means more sleeping time. More sleeping time means better results or more time for the family. Okay, so this is what people want, always moving towards the city center, always considering a place that's near the school and near the workplace. Okay, next, there are some future developments in around Kopar and Newton. One, of course, what we know is that in the draft master plan is the revamp of the Orchard Road into a more lively street, bringing more people into the already very famous Orchard Road. Okay, this 2.4 kilometers walk is going to attract a lot of tourists, and you yourself, if you are staying around the corner, you're going to have a lot of entertainment over the weekends as you walk there. Number 2, when you're making in an investment, a consideration is the rentability. All right, what is rentability? Every time you buy a house, first question you ask, what is the rental yield? What is the rental yield? Okay, here, Kopar and Newton, we want to consider the rentability. Rental yield to me is not just how much you gain, but also how much tenant can you bring in? Can your location, is your condo, is your project able to attract? Okay, with more tenants coming in, it gives a very consistent rental over years, right? During your investment. So one, for Kopar and Newton, all right, we are located, of course, again, in the MRT line. The 2 lines actually takes you to the CBD area. One station, very importantly, is Raffles Place, which a lot of cluster will be there. And then the other one will be the downtown core, right, where the Marina Financial District Center is, right, the MBFC. So these 2 are the main core where a lot of tenants will be working there, all right. Second, I will consider, what I'll say is the land size. You're saying, land size, does it got to do with rentability? Okay, just to show you the land size, I plotted a graph which the land was acquired since 2017 to date. Okay, Kopar and Newton, the land size is a rare land that is seated in District 9. Buying a piece of land in the core central district is already very expensive. And having a big one is not only expensive, it is rare. Okay, rare has its quality. Okay, and you can see that there's only 3 so far. Okay, what does big land size mean to you? Okay, big land size means that you are able to build full condo facilities. Okay, you may say that, hey, I'm buying for investment, I'm not staying there, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to buy it so that my tenant can sleep on the bed and watch the TV and go to work. But it means a lot. Actually, my years of showing showing tenants around, it actually means a lot to them. It is part of their life. When they come home from work, they wind down, and over the weekends, these are the things they want to enjoy. So Kopar and Newton, we have about 42 facilities. More than that, we have a 38 meters with clubhouse. All right, it's built to impress your guests, even your tenant. Okay. On top of that, we also the project also do have concierge services. All right, bespoke services, porter services to bring your luggage to the room and things like that. With this kind of well-thought plan into a condo, not only you are able to get a good rental yield, all right, but not only good and consistent, but you are able to attract the best profile tenants to this project. Okay, so so let's move on to the exit strategy. Okay, so the number 3 exit strategy that I will want to why I'm sharing this, because if you are buying for investment, you're investing in something, you must think about where is your next buyer coming in. Because today, if you, let's say you buy a property at 1 million, 10 years, 5 years later, you're selling at 1 million again, then to me, technically you're losing money because you're not making the money work for you. What you want to acquire today in the medium to long-term range, it must have a capital appreciation. So in order to recognize the capital appreciation, first, we want to look at is you have to ask when you're acquiring this property, where are your buyers coming from? Where are your future buyers coming from? Is this place a place of aspirational demand? Does people want to buy here and stay, or future people who are future investors, having the same interest and portfolio that you have? So for Kopar and Newton, we are in the central location. Okay, today you are staying in the outskirts. Your aspirational demand you will definitely aspire to move towards the nearest city. For example, like let's say if you're staying in the east, Tampines or Bedok, you probably want to move somewhere to maybe where Marine Parade, right? If you're staying in Yishun or Ang Mo Kio, you probably want to aspire to move towards Bishan and further towards Novena, Newton, right? And then in the west and so on. So, but being in the central location means more eyeball to your property. Being in the location means I can capture buyers from the central, north, south, north, east, and west. Okay, and so for Kopar and Newton, you can see that the location, it really matters, because in this strategic location, you are able to attract not only the 3 from all directions, and not forgetting the foreigners as well. Okay, this is, again, I said, core central region has the most interest from foreigners. This is where the forces will come in the future. So you know that in your investment today, your exit strategy is there. You will have a big piece of cake, pie, sharing, but by the moment you list out, you should have a good number of buyers looking at your property in the future. Next, we want to talk about right pricing. Okay, the entry point of where you want to put your investment in is very important. Okay, for Kopar and Newton, I'm involved in the project. What we know is that during this time, for the benefit of those who did not know, we launched during the social distancing period. All right, we launched during the travel restriction period. This is when foreigners are not able to come in. My buyers, foreign buyers, are trapped in Indonesia. They're trapped in China. They are not able to come and say, I'm keen, this project, wow, the price is really attractive and I want to come in, but they are not able to. Why? Because the travel restriction is already in place. And second, we did our first sale. As you could see here, the date is on 5th of April where the news came out, but we did the first sale on the 4th of April. Okay, our Prime Minister came in to make an announcement saying that the lockdown will be on the 7th, and we actually launched 3 days before the lockdown. What does this mean? This means that during this period, this is a very difficult period for developers, and they definitely have to price it very sensitively in order to capture a good number of transactions. Right? A good number of transactions in the first wave means that there will be confidence on the next wave of buyer. Okay, and what is the price that was transacted during this period? You could see that in the core central region, in terms of quantum, in terms of PSF, we transacted the lowest. We are still in the 2,257 range, and followed by the rest of the projects. Okay, as you can see earlier, I mentioned to you per bank, yeah, all right, the Boulevard 88, sorry, and remember this number I mentioned to you earlier about Park Place residents. All right, Park Place residents were done in the median of 2001 to 2003, and today, this is a chance for you to enter the market, buying a District 9 CCR project at the RCR price. Would this ever happen again? I doubt so, really, honestly. Next, you may say that PSF is a bit, not accurate. Maybe I'll show you the quantum price as well. All right, quantum price. Next, another point about exit strategy is what is the potential growth for this project, Kopar and Newton. First, you can see that across the board, 1 bedroom starting from 1.232, 2 bedroom starting from under 1.5 million, and 3 bedroom under 2 million. This is in the straight line. Okay, what is the potential growth here, ladies and gentlemen? Imagine one day all these projects are done. All right, it's all TOP, ready to take in the tenants and ready for sale, ready to sell. Does Kopar and Newton not have the potential to match the prices of the sellers in the other projects? I think so. Why not? Because we are all in the CCR region. We all belong to the same bag of core central region. If today, to say that the M, all right, the buyer at 1.46, he decides to sell it, he has to make some money at 1.6. I believe that Kopar and Newton, you could do something close to 1.6. Why not? I don't see why. And in terms of facilities, I have more than you, right? So these are the things you want to have this potential growth. You want to enter low and get in high. And the good news is that today, Kopar and Newton, the developers has not raised this price, okay? And we are still in the first day prices, okay? So the good news is there is still something for investors out there. For the 1 bedroom, all right, our sizes are very good, 517, and you're only commanding from 1.2, okay? And the 2 bedrooms, which is one of our hottest right now in Kopar and Newton, although the project is about 94 units sold, all right, close to 25%, we managed to clock almost 50% for the 2 bedrooms. And you can see that the 2 bedroom quantums, okay, it is about 1.5 to 1.6 range. Okay, and if you remember earlier when I shared a chart with you, the CCR 2 bedrooms, if you will go on Property Guru today, you will search a 2 bedrooms today, be it resale or new launch, the average range is about 1.9. That's the average. Can you imagine how much room they can go and how much for you, the difference? Okay, so this is really very attractive for Kopar and Newton. The 3 bedrooms for own stay, for family, is looking at under 2 million, all right? And the 3 bedroom deluxe, 2.24. The 4 bedrooms, very good size. They come with a private lift, starting from 3.4, and the 5 bedrooms starting from 3.9. Okay, so you can see that the prices here, again, if you look at the average per square foot, okay, we are still in the 2,250 range. Would you want to go for D14 Boulevard or District 9 Orchard? Right? So that's the thing you need to think about. Okay, so in my conclusion, okay, first, I would say that CCR has a strong potential of growth after a crisis due to strong aspirational and foreign demand. Okay, definitely once the crisis is over, you could see that things will be getting hot in this location because that's where only the foreigners can want, right? The non-landed private residential. Next, for investment consideration, be it whichever investment you are looking at, you should consider the location, right? Of where it's located. Is it convenient, the rentability, and one exit sound strategy. One sound exit strategy which you must think about. Okay. Number 3, well, that's the one I would want to recommend. Kopar and Newton is one of the best selling projects today in CCR. I think you should really strongly consider. All right, having said that, thank you very much. It ends my